Alright, when you solve for angles and arcs given two chords, you're going to use the formula big arc plus small arc divided by 2 equals the angle. And you can use this every time to solve for the missing pieces. The way I remember that it's a plus is because it makes a cross in the center, so if it crosses, you use a plus sign. So you do big arc plus the small arc divided by 2 equals the angle. You don't know what the angle is, so you're going to put an X. That's 174 divided by 2 equals X. When you divide that by 2, that'd be 87. Done. Problem 2. The big arc, I think that's a 5, plus the small arc divided by 2, because they make that cross in the center, equals the angle. You don't know what that angle is. Add it up. And then divide it to get 110. Number 3, I have the big arc is 135 plus the small arc divided by 2 equals the angle. Then divide it by 2, 93 degrees. Big arc would be the 86 plus the 50 divided by 2 equals the angle. That would be 68 degrees. Now I check again. See how they're still making that cross in the middle with the chords? I'm still using big arc plus the small arc divided by 2 equals the angle. And if you find a shortcut, you can use it if you'd like. So big arc plus the small arc, which is an X this time, divided by 2 equals the angle. Now to get X by itself, I have to multiply by the denominator. And I have to minus the 128. So the arc is 56 degrees. The big arc, I don't know, plus the small arc divided by 2 equals the angle. I double it to get rid of the denominator, and minus the 50. Take the big arc plus the small arc divided by 2 equals the angle. Double it. And minus the 50. Big arc plus the small arc divided by 2 equals the angle. Double it. The little arc is 53 degrees. Now when you have a tangent, that means that it touches the circle once, and it creates a 90-degree angle with the radius. So when we do these, notice that the angles are no longer crossing in the center, they're on the outside. So we're going to use the big arc minus the small arc divided by 2 equals the angle. So it's the exact same thing, the only difference is you subtract instead of add. So if I know this is 100 and a full circle is 360, this would have to be 260 for the big arc. So I'm going to do 260 minus the small arc divided by 2 equals the angle. That gives me 160 divided by 2, which would be 80 degrees. So I'm going to find this big arc. So I'm going to do 360 minus the 105. I do the big arc minus the small arc divided by 2 equals the angle that I don't know. 255 minus 105 divided by 2, 75 degrees. Big arc, I need the small arc, so I'm going to do 360 minus the 246. Big arc minus the small arc divided by 2 equals the angle. 246 minus 114 divide by 2, 66. Big arc is given, so I need the small one. Big arc minus the small arc divided by 2 equals the angle. So then the angle for this would be 79 degrees. On the next section, you'll notice that there are no arcs given. So we're going to use a different method when there's no arcs. And you can use this method on other ones with tangents if you want to. Try it. So whenever you don't have an arc, you're going to take 180 and minus the angle that's given, which is a 79. This would be 101. Then to find the big arc, you would do 360 minus the small arc. And the question mark was on this one, so that was the arc you were looking for, which was the 259. There's no arc. 180 minus the 75 is 105. That is where the question mark, so you could stop. If you wanted to check what the big arc is, you would do 360 minus the 105. But that would be your answer because that's where the question mark is. 180 minus the, let's just say it's a 58. Then we would do 360 minus the small arc. 238 for the big arc, and we're done. No arcs, 180 minus 60 is 120. 360 minus the 120 is 240, but they wanted the inner arc. When they give you a secant, it goes through the circle and it touches it twice. The only difference between a chord and a secant are the lines that extend outside the circle. So we have the arcs. We're going to use the same method. When the angles are exterior, we use the big minus the small divided by 2 equals the angle. The only time we put a plus is when they cross on the inside and make a plus sign. So I would have 160 minus 60 over 2 equals the angle. 100 divided by 2, that means it's 50 degrees. On this one I would do big arc minus the small arc divided by 2 equals the angle. This time the x is over here, so I have to solve for it. Times by 2, x minus 62 equals 90. Add the 62. X is equal to 152. Which makes sense because it's the bigger arc, so it should be bigger than 62. Big arc minus the small arc divided by 2 equals the angle. Times it by 2. I'm actually going to add the x over. That gives me 90 plus x, then I can minus the 90. It's a little bit easier. So then I get 169 minus the 90. And then 16 minus 9 is 7. On the right side, we're going to go through and do similar ones, so if you want to pause it and try them on your own, you can, and then check them. You would do big arc minus, I think it's a 60 over 2 equals x. Then you're going to do 110 divided by 2 equals x, which is 55. Big arc minus the small arc divided by 2 equals the angle. Oops, the angle's 47. Times by 2. 94 plus the 68. So we get 162 degrees. On this arc, I have big arc minus the small arc divided by 2 equals the angle. Times by 2. I get 90. Add the 65. X is equal to 155 for that missing arc.